Hey everybody, good Wednesday to you. Pastor Mark here with Midday with Mark. Glad to see you all. Glad you all survived the storm. I would figure that you all survived the storm last night. Pretty crazy. At least at my house in Coriopolis, we had like 75-mile-an-hour winds. That was the strongest wind I think I've ever seen. It woke me up and I went downstairs and just watched the wind blow, and it was nuts. It was crazy. So those of you who survived the storm last night, glad that you're here. Welcome to Midday with Mark. Hey, real quick on that too. Our other campus, New Kensington, the River New Kensington, the church directly across the road. Maybe you saw it on the news here in Pittsburgh. Completely like lost their roof, ripped their entire roof off, threw it across the road. Crazy. So if you saw that church on the news, that's directly across the street. Our church did not suffer any damage other than our sign out front, which was kind of a metal sign with a banner between it. It got wiped out last night in New Ken. So praying for all those in New Ken last night, recovering from storm damage. I don't think there was any loss of life, but that church on Easter Holy Week lost their entire roof. So I'm sure they're scrambling right now. So prayers to them and best wishes to them. Well, welcome here to Holy Wednesday. I'm sporting my River t-shirt today. Love God, love others, love Pittsburgh. These are very popular. We sent one of those down to Swickley Hospital yesterday with the meals that we delivered. We're delivering meals again on Thursday to Swickley Hospital, to doctors and nurses. If you want to support that effort, you can go online and give through our app. It's called PushPay. PushPay, P-U-S-H Pay. PushPay, go there online or download that app on your phone. Find the River Church, and then in our place, you can do a pull down menu and it'll say feed the healers. So if you'd like to be a part of that, we're going to do that all through the month of April. Love to have you support that effort in any way. Good to see you, Mike Basic. Any way you can support that. Usually the meals run about $10 a meal. So you want to support one meal, one person, $10. All right. Also out there on our porch right there are bins where you can drop off stuff for Light of Life mission, hand sanitizer, toilet paper, all kinds of different things, granola bars. Go on our website or go on our Facebook page. It'll tell you what we need dropped off. We're trying to fill these bins. We're a little behind on that, so we got to get it going here. So welcome to Holy Wednesday. It's not a day that most people talk about when they talk about Holy Week. They talk about Palm Sunday. They talk about Maundy, Thursday. Hi, Sandy. They talk about Maundy, Thursday. They talk about Good Friday and, of course, Easter. So Thursday is a day that Wednesday is a day that often gets overlooked. And it's a day that not many people talk about. What I want to talk about today is a subject that hits deeply for everybody. But in this instance, I think the story we're about to look at is fascinating. It's fascinating to me, but it's also, I think, misinterpreted. In my opinion, nobody really knows. There are people that believe it's for one reason. I don't tend to believe that. But what we're going to look at today is the story of Judas and Judas's betrayal. And we're going to look at betrayal today here on Holy Wednesday, because sometime around here is when Judas would have betrayed Jesus, probably on Wednesday. And so we'll look at that, and we'll look at why. We'll look at what kind of led up to that. So if you think about Judas, Jesus was recruited. He's one of the original 12 people, one of the original 12 disciples. And a couple of things you got to remember in this is that Judas saw everything that every other disciple saw. And we talked about earlier in the week that Jesus rose from the dead Lazarus, and that all of those people from Bethany, which is just over the hill, over the ridge from Jerusalem, all those people come in on Palm Sunday. They're pumped up. They're excited. This guy's got to be the Messiah. He raises people from the dead. And so all these people on Palm Sunday are headed into Jerusalem. Judas saw Lazarus raised from the dead. So you got to keep all of those things in mind. Judas saw what Jesus was capable of. Some people also believe that Judas was part of what is called the Sicarii, which were people that plotted to kill any Roman soldiers they could. There's a movie that mentions this. I'm trying to remember. It's a very popular movie that's been out the last couple of years that mentions the Sicarii. They were called dagger men. That's what Sicarii meant. Dagger men, which means they would look for opportunities when there was a large crowd, and they would get around a Roman soldier and they would basically shank them under their armor and kill them. So the Sicarii were revolutionaries. They were zealots. Some people believe Judas was part of that or connected to people who were part of the zealots, who wanted the overthrow of Rome. So you got to know all this background. So possibly Judas was part of that. He wanted the overthrow of Rome. He wanted it violently. Barabbas was one of those. Barabbas that we'll see later in the story. But this story is all about betrayal. But betrayal has many different shades, not shades of gray. All right, 50 shades of gray. Anyway, so there's shades of betrayal. Everybody probably listening to this, you have either been betrayed. Oh, I could tell you stories. Been betrayed, or you have betrayed others. In fact, I would probably venture to say that all of us have been both. All of us have either been betrayed or we have betrayed others. Probably both of those things are true. And when we betrayed others, there were probably some good justification that we had in our mind at the time. And in our mind at the time when we betrayed that person, we had a good reason in our mind. It was good. We might even not known it was going to turn out badly, but it did. But we thought going into it, we had good reasons to betray another person. Sometimes maybe it was just malicious. And if you've been betrayed, you know the pain of betrayal. And the person who betrayed you, probably in their mind, didn't think it was all that malicious. And so, betrayal is an interesting thing. And I think this betrayal that we're about to look at is incredibly interesting. There's somebody walking in the parking lot. Looks like they're doing their laps. So when you come to this story, remember all the things that I said before. Judas could possibly have been part of the revolutionary group of zealots. He's seen Jesus' power. He's seen what Jesus is capable of. So all of these things you got to keep in mind. You got to keep all of those things in mind when you come to this, because what I'm about to share with you, many of you probably are not used to this theory of why Judas betrayed Jesus. But this is what the scripture says on this Holy Wednesday. It says in Matthew 26, verse 14, "Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, 'What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?' So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over." Now, Judas goes to the chief priests. He goes to the religious leaders of the Jewish nation, of Israel, of Jerusalem. So he goes there to figure out how to betray. Sorry, my phone's ringing. See a decline. So he goes there to figure out when he can hand Jesus over. Well, why are those two groups coming together? Well, first of all, the Pharisees were afraid of the people because the people loved Jesus. They thought he was the Messiah. So they're looking for where he is when there's no one around. And the guy who knows that information is Judas. And so Judas knows that he has to hand Jesus over when there isn't a lot of people around. Because remember, they're staying in a wine press outside of the city, a big building that has a wine press in it. That's most likely where Jesus and his disciples were sleeping. There's a garden of olives next to it. That's why the the olive press is there. And so that's why we find Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Garden of Olives, that we'll see later in the story. So he has to get Jesus alone. The person who knows where Jesus will be alone at night is Judas. Judas goes to the Pharisees, and they give him 30 pieces of silver for the information. Now, many people believe that this betrayal is for money. I do not. I don't believe this betrayal is for money, and I also don't believe this betrayal is for hatred. And I'll tell you why. Go back to what I said before. Judas saw everything that every other disciple saw. He saw Jesus raise people from the dead. If you saw that, that would shake you up a little bit, and you would realize what this guy is capable of. So stick with me for a moment. I believe that Judas betrayed Jesus out of his desire to get what he wanted. And what he wanted was the overthrow of the Romans. And so he thinks that if I turn you over to the chief priests, and if I turn you over to them, you will get in front of them and you will show them your power. You will show them who you are. You will show them that you are the Messiah, the Son of God. And then maybe with them together, you will take on Rome and you will go against Rome. Or even if they don't believe you, they can't crucify you, but Rome can. And so they're going to have to push you in front of Pontius Pilate. And when you get in front of Pontius Pilate, you will come out for who you are. You are the Messiah. You're the King of Kings. You are God's Son. And in the face of Pilate, you will show Pilate who you are and that you're bringing a kingdom. And Rome itself, Pilate himself, will bow down before you. And I will get what I want, the coming of the kingdom of God. And we will rule with you, Jesus, as your disciples. We will rule and we will kick Rome out and we will be conquerors. See, I believe what Judas wanted was his own agenda. He had an agenda for God. Now, how do I back that up? How it's not for hatred. Now it's how it's not for money. How it's not even malicious to him. Is that I believe when Judas betrayed Jesus, remember when he met him in the garden, he greeted them with a what? A kiss. And that word for that kiss and embrace in the Greek when it happens is this friendly embrace. I mean, a very friendly, warm moment. It's not a moment that's cold or a moment of hatred. Remember what he says to him, Rabbi, and he greets him with a kiss. And remember, even back up a little bit more, when Judas leaves the dinner, nobody goes, well, of course he's going out to betray Jesus. In fact, when Jesus tells the whole group of disciples that one of them is going to betray him, people start asking, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? Not everybody turns and look and immediately go, well, of course it's Judas. We know he doesn't really like you in the first place. And then after all the events play out of Holy Week and Judas realizes that his plan isn't going to work and that he just handed his friend, Jesus, over to the Romans and he's going to die. Now, what does he do? Notice what he does. He takes back the money. If you did this for the money, why do you take back the money? You don't. If you did it for the money, by the way, 30 pieces of silver really wasn't that much money. If you did it for the money, you don't give it back, because if you did it for the money and what you wanted to see happen, you celebrate. Yeah, I got rid of him. That's what I set out to do. I set out to get rid of him and I got money for it. You celebrate that. Or even after that, the man takes his own life over the guilt he feels of betraying him. You don't do that for someone you hated. But when you see your plan, your agenda for God go down in flames, and the Son of God is going to die, and you can't see the big picture that that's for you, then you, out of guilt, take your own life. See, for me, I think Judas loved Jesus. I think he loved him. But I think he had his own agenda. I think he had an agenda for him. And is this too far-fetched? I mean, don't we do this all the time? We could say we love God, but we have an agenda for you, God. You need to work this way. And I'm going to try to push you into a corner and get you to do what I want you to do. Or don't you remember, God, I did this and I did this and I did this. Or God, you don't, so you should give back to me, or you should do it this way. Or God, I don't think you're doing things exactly right. So I'm going to push the process along and I'm going to move it this way. We all do this. We all betray God this way. It's usually not, oh, I'm going to sell you for 30 pieces of silver so that you die. That's not what betrayal often looks like. Betrayal is often much more subtle and much more hard to put your finger on. So as you think about Judas here on Holy Wednesday, he's just a guy, just like you and me. He's just a human being with agendas and wants and desires and plans that he thinks this is the way it should go. But what if God's not doing that? What if God's got a different plan? What if he's got a different plan than yours? And what if you've tried to push him into places he will not go? No matter how much you want, and maybe you want God to work this way, or I can remember things in my life that I wanted God to do, and I almost tried to bribe him. I almost tried to remind him, look, God, I work for you. Why won't you do this? I mean, because we all want our own way. So what's your agenda? Are you willing to submit your will to God's will? That's what Jesus did. He submitted his will to the Father's will. Are you willing to submit your agendas and your plans to his? I think the last 3 weeks have been a reminder that we're not in control. We're not. We need to give up the illusion of control because it's not real. But here's what I want to leave you with. There were people that betrayed Jesus. All the disciples betrayed Jesus. We have all betrayed him in some way with our sin, our agendas, our plans, our will. And all the disciples on Easter, Good Friday, Thursday, all those days, they all betrayed him. They all came back but one. Judas didn't wait. He didn't wait for the forgiveness. He didn't wait for the grace. So if you've messed up and you've had agendas for God and you've betrayed him and you have, with your actions or your plans or the things you've willfully done or left undone, if you betrayed him that way, wait for the grace. Run to the grace. Run into his arms and receive the forgiveness, because he's the great restorer of betrayers. He's the great healer of distance. Have you accepted that grace too? Have you accepted the grace of God that Judas never waited for? Oh, how sad. Because he would have been welcomed back to Jesus with open arms. And he would have lived a life that changed the lives of so many. But he didn't wait. He didn't seek the grace. He missed the man. He missed what the man stood for. All in all, at the end of the day, Judas missed what the man stood for. He missed what Jesus stood for. He missed what Jesus was doing. He missed the man and he missed the mission of what God was up to. Don't miss the man. Don't miss the man that loves you and forgives you. And don't miss the man who has a mission. And don't miss his mission, because his mission in the world is often not ours, and it often doesn't look the way we want it to. But when we line our lives up with his mission, powerful things happen. That's Holy Wednesday. It's all about betrayal. It's about betraying ourselves. It's about losing ourselves. Let's not lose ourselves. Let's not lose ourselves by trying to do our thing. Let's lose ourselves in the mission of God and in the man, Jesus Christ, not in our stuff, not in our selfishness, not in our agendas. It's my prayer for you. It's been great talking to you today. Hey, love you guys. Stay safe. Be wise. Stay home. Just chill. Have faith over fear and have faith in the midst of fear. All right? Love to see your comments. Leave a comment of what you thought about the teaching today. Other people read those. I'd love to read them. Leave a teaching what you thought. I know this is out of the norm of what people think about Judas, but to me, it makes the most sense. And there are a lot of other theologians who kind of fall in under that thinking too, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So send it. Write it in even after we sign off here. Write it. I love to read it. Always love your comments and thoughts. Love you guys. Take care.